So we'll be talking about a concept that is dominant caste. But before that, I just need to tell you a story that how this concept actually came into place and the name of the book in which this concept was given, The Remembered Village. Okay. Now, what is the story and what's the reason behind the name like this, Remembered Village? What happened that M.N. Srinivas, 1948, that is just after assassination of Gandhi, what actually happened that uh, almost at the same time, Redcliffe Brown was also replaced by Evans Pritchard. Now, 1948 में say Evans Pritchard replaced Brown, and Evans Pritchard actually consulted M.N. Srinivas. He wanted to meet M.N. Srinivas because M.N. Srinivas has gained a lot of fame there. Okay, and he wanted M.N. Srinivas to conduct a new field work, and that too in India, but this time of a different type of field work. So पहला जो फील्ड वर्क किया था वो कुर्ग में किया था, एंड दैट वाज मेनली अ प्लेस जहां पे सिर्फ एक या दो कास्ट ग्रुप्स रह रहे थे, ज्यादा कास्ट ग्रुप्स एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते थे. ओके, और से मेनली कुर्ग, सना कुर्ग्स एंड अमा कुर्ग्स वेर मेनली डोमिनेटिंग दैट एरिया, and rest of the caste groups, even if they exist, they were in very much minorities. Okay, so he wanted M.N. Srinivas to conduct a field work in a multi-caste village, and this multi-caste village from structural functionist point of view. So M.N. Srinivas decided, okay, I'll be going to my place and will conduct a field work on multi-caste village. And this time he decided that he will be doing a field work in a village called as Rampura. Now, this is also a pseudonym. It's not the real name. The original name is Kodgahili. Okay, this is also in Mysore. So he came to Mysore, conducted this field work, and you might be aware, I might have told you कि pseudonym क्यों use करते थे. That is to maintain the ethics of the field work, confidentiality को maintain करने के लिए. So he came here, and when he entered into this village, he was prohibited by the villagers to enter into the village. वो आने के लिए मना कर दिया, बोला कि क्यों मना कर रहे हैं? तो he says that कि गांधी जी की डेथ के बाद ये विलेज वाले तेरहवीं मना रहे हैं. सो यू मस्ट बी अवेयर अबाउट दिस रिचुअल दैट इज तेरहवीं, in which the house in which the death has happened is considered to be polluted, and no outsider is allowed to enter into that house because that house is polluted for that 13 days. And after 13 days, the gatherings of the community will be happening in that house to observe Tervi. So the entire village considered Gandhi as their family member and was observing the death mourning of Gandhi. And that's why they asked कि पूरा village pollute हो चुका है because the family member has died, and no outsider is allowed to enter into this village for 13 days. And that's why Srinivas को बोला गया कि आप 13 दिन बाद आइएगा. So Srinivas said, okay. So he came back after 13 days and he started to study this village. What he found that this village has 19 Hindu caste groups and one Muslim group. Now this Muslim group was more or less behaving like a caste group only. Okay, a particular occupation tha and they were following that particular occupation, behaving just like a caste group. Now in this village, the prominent caste groups, based on the numbers, they were Brahmins, Lingayats, Okaliggas, and Dalits. Okay, and this is the caste groups arranged in the ritual hierarchy also. So Brahmins were at the top of the ritual hierarchy, followed by Lingayats, followed by Okaliggas, and then the Dalits. Okay, so what he found that in this particular village, there is a kind of mutual dependency between the caste groups, and every caste is doing their traditionally assigned roles. And based on this ritual ranking, say Brahmins followed by Lingayats, Okaliggas, and Dalits, actual ranking on the ground is very different. Here in this particular village, what he found that Okaliggas are playing a very dominant role, and they basically are the ones who are decision makers in economic and political aspects of the village. So mainly decisions ये लोग लेते हैं. And he also found that कि सबसे बड़ा reason है इनकी numerical strength, number, and the second major reason is the land ownership. यहाँ से he came up with the idea of what is called as the dominant caste. That it is not necessary that caste which is at the top of the ritual hierarchy will always be the will always be the top at the ground level. It might happen that despite relatively lower ritual hierarchy because of the secular factors, a particular caste might dominate a particular region. And that is what he calls as the dominant caste. And here in this case, he observed the case of Okaliggas. So he observed this phenomena and wrote in his diary and went back to Britain. Evans Pritchard ko bataya. Evans Pritchard was very much excited. He wanted to write this in a book. But Evans Pritchard was so excited that he appointed him as a head of the department of Indian sociology in Oxford. So अब इनको बोला कि आप lectures लो, and he was doing busy doing lectures and all, so he didn't get the time to write the book or so whatever he has observed. But he was talking about this concept dominant caste when he was discussing Indian sociology. Okay, now post 1951 he came to India, University of Baroda गए, and then Delhi University में he had established the Department of Sociology, Delhi School of Economics में. And then gradually, one after the other, he started to get a lot of responsibilities that he didn't get the time to write this idea in a particular book. The diary was always with him. 1970 की बात है that he was there in University of Stanford, and there he was in a particular hostel room or dormitory में थे, and he was preparing for some lectures. Then a student protest actually started to happen against the participation of American government in Vietnam War. So आप लोगों ने सुना होगा 1970s में Vietnam War. So and a lot of American soldiers they actually faced very brutal death. Okay, बहुत सारे traps वगैरह बने थे and बहुत बुरी तरीके से मरे थे. And against that, the American students were protesting. And those protests made that protest became violent, and then they started to burn the hostels. They started to burn several effigies and all. And इसमें the place where Srinivas was staying was also burned. And those destruction में what happened that he lost the notebook in which he has written about this village, or whatever data that he has collected about this village was burned down. And he got very sad कि अभी तो किताब लिखनी थी, it's something like that, and that data is burnt. So he met an anthropologist named Soul Tax. So Soul Tax ने इनको बोला कि भाई कोई बात नहीं, किताब जल गई तो क्या हुआ? You actually did the field work. You must be remembering things about it. So whatever you can remember, whatever you can recall from your memory, just try to use that to write the book. And that, based on his insistence, he narrated all that he could remember of this village. And that's why the name of the book, Remembered Village. Okay. And in this book, he talks about, or he officially gives the concept called as the dominant caste. अब आप इस बुक को कभी फुर्सत मिली तो आप देखोगे that in many places that he talks about, he says probably या शायद ऐसा कुछ हुआ था, because he is not able to recall correctly या clearly what he experienced, but based on his blur memory, whatever he could remember. So उनके जो पूरी बुक है वो इस तरीके से इस नैरेटिव पे लिखी गई है कि प्रोबेबली शायद ऐसा करते थे, शायद वैसा करते थे, शायद बहुत बार यूज किया है. ओके, बट he started to give justification to this concept of dominant caste by finding examples from different parts of the India. Okay, so what is this concept, dominant caste? He says that a caste can be called as dominant provided it has numerical preponderance, economic power, political power, and its position in ritual hierarchy should not be too low. ऐसा नहीं है कि टॉप पे होनी चाहिए, but it should not be too low. So he gave this criteria. Now numerical preponderance, he says that ki numbers may they should be large, and this numbers when combined with the electoral politics that has happened post independence actually gives the caste a strength in that particular area. That is the numbers. Okay. Economic power, he says that specifically with respect to the village comes by land ownership. Okay. So land ownership gives them the economic power, and then later on he added another factor for economic power, that is occupation. Then political power, he says that is basically the one who controls the village politics, or the one who actually is occupying the significant position in the village panchayats, that is the political power. He also adds that the political power might also come by job in administration. So कोई पुलिस ऑफिसर बन गया, कोई IAS IPS बन गया, something like this. So that is the jobs in administration will give them the political power. And then the last criteria that he says that ki dominance will be accepted only and only if the caste is not SC or ST, something like that, that the group should not be very low in the ritual hierarchy. Only then the position of dominance will be accepted. Else, even if the SCs, they are in high numbers, they might have money, but their dominance will not be accepted by the so-called upper caste. Okay. So these are the criteria that he mentioned: numerical preponderance, economic power, political power, and the position in the ritual hierarchy should not be low. Now this concept, dominant caste, is basically a structural functionist idea to explain something. What is that? How the village or multi-caste village is basically stabilized. Multiple groups hain, how they are interacting with each other. So he says that this multi-caste village is stabilized because of centralization of power in hands of a caste. एक power center है, and they are the ones who basically are controlling the affairs of the village. So this dominant caste will be bringing stability in the village. Okay. Now how this centralization of power actually comes? Mainly because of political power and also because of economic power. That is, agricultural land control कर रहे हैं, बाकी सारे caste इस पे dependent हैं, and that's why there is a dependency on the upper caste, or say the so-called dominant caste. And they have the power, and that's why they are able to manage the affairs of the village. And जिसकी वजह से जो village में stability आ जाती है, village में एक say kind of solidarity, kind of say order रहेगा. That is the structural functionist understanding of dominant caste. So he says that this dominant caste performs a lot of functions. Now these functions are like, it's the watchdog of village culture. So any kind of norms, any kind of taboos, any kinds of restrictions in the village will be ensured to be fulfilled by the dominant caste. So this is a watchdog. Say they are basically taking care of the village culture, that every rules are followed. And in case if they are not followed, the other caste might suffer from some kind of repercussions. They might suffer from some kind of punishments that might be done by the dominant caste individuals. Okay. So watchdog of village culture, basically dealing with economic affairs, then resolution of conflict. They will be taking care of resolution of conflicts in the village. Then they also ensure welfare of their followers. Now he says that यहाँ पे भी he is using that potlatch का idea, Redcliffe Brown ने जो बताया था, कैसे just to maintain their dominance, just to maintain their status quo, they will be engaging in some kind of welfare activities. They might be engaging in some kind of philanthropic activities, charity वगैरह करेंगे, दान दहेज करते रहेंगे. And due to this, they basically ensure the welfare of the downtrodden, or say the poor class in the village. And that's how the stability and the order in the village will be maintained. अदर थिंग दैट ही सेज कि डोमिनेंट कास्ट को स्टडी करने का एक बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज है, आपको लोकल पॉलिटिक्स समझ में आएगी. सो यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द लोकल hierarchies, local politics, how things are actually being managed in that local area. Okay. At the same time, you will also be able to understand models of Sanskritization. So we have seen different models of Sanskritization: Brahminization, Kshatriyization, Vaishyization. अब वो किस एरिया में कौन सा मॉडल फॉलो हो रहा है, डिपेंड करता है कि उस एरिया में डोमिनेंट कास्ट कौन सी है, because that will become the ideal group that will be imitated by the lower caste. So in order to understand which model of sensitization is being followed in that area, just identify which caste is holding dominance in that area. तो वो आप एक तरीके से आइडियल ग्रुप बन जाता है, उसको ही लोग इमिटेट करेंगे. ओके, सो दैट इज द मॉडल्स ऑफ सेंसिटाइजेशन कैन आल्सो बी अंडरस्टूड बाय अंडरस्टैंडिंग dominant caste. So examples of these dominant castes in different places or different states you can understand, like for example Andhra. So you will find Reddis, Kapus, UP, Yadavs, Bihar, Yadavs, Bhumihar. Then Maharashtra, Marathas, Haryana, Jat and Gujjar. Gujarat, Patels. So different states you might find different caste groups actually managing or say having the position of dominance.